Hey, is the mic on? Hey, can you hear me up in the balcony up there? Let's get the show going.
Hey folks, I'm back. Welcome to what will soon be day 730 of the 2-week flat curve. You remember that? In the divided states of communist America. I am delighted to have Mike Williams on the show today, and he'll give you a plethora of information as he's one of the most well-researched persons that I know. We have tiptoed into tyranny.
Oh boy.
The fear frequency of using the lies of a VAXX. An injection has never made you healthy. And now more and more people are waking up. Finally. If you've been like me, you were awake on day one of this. Here's a great quote from Anonymous. Morality is doing what is right, regardless of what you are told. Obedience is doing what you are told, regardless of what is right. If I had to vote for anyone for president, I'd vote for Anonymous, wouldn't you? Anyway, let's get the show going with my song Book Burning's here, as the truth is what they fear. Let's get it going.
We are all close to losing our minds. The learning curve has gone down. Looking for truth is getting harder to find. Real history cannot be found. The book burning's here. The truth's what they fear. They steer us all with fake news. The book burning's here, and now it's so clear. Your smartphone, you need to lose. Removing our rights to think for ourselves has been their plan all along. That's why they are taking all the truth from the shelves. Spewing more lies, well that's wrong. The book burning's here, the truth's what they fear. They steer us all with fake news. The book burning's here, and now it's so clear. Your smartphone you need to lose.
Propaganda is legal, folks. If you don't go along with their official stories, that's a joke. And remember, truth is not hate speech. Watching everything we do now.
The book burning's here, the truth's what they fear. They steer us all with fake news. The book burning's here, and now it's so clear. Your smartphone, you need to lose. The book burning's here, the truth's what they fear. They steer us all with fake news. The book burning's here, and now it's so clear. Your smartphone, you need to lose.
Nobody died in Censored. Yeah, welcome to the show, Mike. This is our fourth time doing this, I think. Did I count right on that? 4?
Uh-oh.
Where did Mike go?
Is he not on there?
I'm not hearing Mike. What?
Everything's working.
Mike? Yeah.
Talk to the audience.
Well, listen, I'll talk to the audience. It seems like we're having all kinds of difficulties here. They may be trying to sabotage the show as they've done that before with me. I'm not hearing you, Mike. And you hear me?
He can hear you.
Yeah, okay. For some reason, we're not hearing you. So I'll just talk a little bit here, folks. We are now, as I said in the intro, we're going to 730 days. That'll be 2 years. We are unbelievable now as far as they want all communist countries. one world communist order, and that's what we're up against. And I have to censor myself. I cannot say, you know what.
Mike, see if you can say something real quick.
Mike, keep trying to talk because Sasha's trying to find out why your sound's not
All right,
right.
can you hear me now?
All right, now we can hear you. Good.
All right.
Oh,
All right. All right.
Looks like the sabotage. I
We're
said,
short-lived. We're short-lived.
yeah, Mike. It's been four. This is our fourth time, correct?
Yep. Fourth time, John.
And I appreciate the fact that you keep coming back. That tells me that you enjoyed the first three.
No, I love our conversations. No, I love our conversations.
Yeah, well, I'm honored too because I watching your videos. I always start the video. Your videos. I have a pet peeve with you. You know what that is?
What's that?
I'll start your video early in the morning before I go to work, and I'm just going to watch a little bit of it. And I end up watching the whole thing, and I'm always got to rush then to get to my pianos. So I never can stop once I start your videos. They're so well done. People, Sage McQuay, if you're from my channel more, you should go to Sage McQuay because Mike has so many good videos about so many things, not just the PIDs, the Falls, the Beatles, more than just that, because there's more to life than them, as we know now, right, Mike?
That's right. That's right.
As we know that they're not who we thought they were when we were growing up. Anyway, do you want? Hey, one thing we can start on real quick is you did a great analysis of the Get Back on the Disneyland. I call Disneyland. Do you want to give us a little quick background to what you and your friend Paul? What was his last name again?
Paul Jansen. Paul Jansen.
You guys did a great job in showing it. Number one, it was over 8 hours long. Was that a little bit too long? Would you say?
Oh, what? Yeah. Oh, he did three parts. It was just shy of 8 hours. Peter Jackson's documentary. Get
Right.
Back.
And what was your analysis of it? Pretty much boring otherwise, other than that. But go through some of the highlights of what you saw.
Well, what I picked up on first of all, the first thing I did back in August of 2021 when they were really starting to set the table with doing the promotions for the Get Back documentary, which premiered on Disney in late November. I think it was the 4th, 5th, and 6th or something like that. And I had the sense, John, that maybe they were going to try to revise Beatle history. Because that period, or the Get Back session, was really a difficult time for the Beatles. There was a lot of conflict, and so I thought, well, why are they doing this? When I started seeing the promos that Peter was putting out, there was all of this. Are we okay?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I heard Sasha, and I thought maybe there was a problem.
No,
Yes.
I think his voice was delaying.
no, it's okay. As far as I'm hearing you right on. I don't know. He's going back and forth there. Yeah.
Okay. So when I watched the promos, I was seeing this real happy time, and they were all getting along and patting each other on the back and all smiles and stuff like that. And I thought to myself, well, I don't know. That's not the history I remember. I remember seeing the original film going way back.
Yeah, I
was a kid.
I saw it when it came out. I was at the theater watching the original, and
Me too. And I saw it a number of times because I had a friend of mine that used to work at the theater on Long Island, and so I must have seen it 4 or 5 times. And I have the DVD here. And so I did a presentation. It was about 90 minutes long, where my intent was to put a stake in the ground to remind everybody of what the period was really like for the Beatles. It wasn't a happy time. Like I said, there was a lot of conflict. There was resentment amongst the band members, especially as it pertained to Billy, who plays the role of Paul McCartney, and the other 3 Beatles.
right.
And so, like I said, I just wanted to baseline it so that people would not forget what the true history was all about. And Billy, as he's winding down his journey, playing the role of Paul McCartney, he is tidying up loose ends. And because that period was not really a shining moment in Beatle history, I felt that perhaps what they're trying to do here is to buff it up a bit and make it look a lot better than it actually was.
And one thing, it was so dark. The movie was so dark, and then you started seeing the promotion of it, and it was so bright. That's what I mean, when I went to the movie, it was depressing. The original Let It Be. I know I was
dark
depressed.
And grainy.
Dark and grainy, and I remember that one scene where Billy's talking to John, and John just sitting there having a cigarette, not saying a word. It was like 3 minutes long. It was like, whoa, come on, what is this? And George is saying, well, if you don't want me to play, I won't play. And I'm like, whoa, this is so depressing. I was depressed when I left the theater when I first saw it.
Yeah, the original film, which was directed by Michael Lindsay Hogg, was a film that was a downer. There's no question about it. But I will say this to Peter Jackson's credit, even though I do believe he tried to pump up the tires for the Get Back sessions and that whole Let It Be period,
right?
He still included a lot of footage that showed that the band was coming apart, that it was winding down. But I'm not really sure at the end of the day that was his intent. I'm glad he left that footage in, but I think the real intent was to make it not as negative as history has told us that it was. In fact, not even just history, but the Beatles themselves, especially John Lennon and George Harrison, didn't have a whole lot of nice things to say about the Get Back sessions and the Let It Be period. So it's not something that just historians were commenting about going back, 50 years ago when the film was released in 1970, the original film.
Right.
So, so again, and Paul Jansen, he's a great guy, and Paul is a film and video analyst. So he was able to pick out things, his eye for detail, and just picking out stuff that was taking place first in the promos, because that's what we covered first. And then both of us watched the entire 8-hour behemoth of a documentary. And, he took notes and I took notes, and we did two shows. One had to do with the promo, and the second show had to do with us just focusing on the 8-hour documentary of Get Back. So,
and I'll say this, after I watched it, I was glad you guys watched it, because after I heard your critique of it, made me go, I'm glad I don't have to watch it. I was like, and I would have wanted to watch it per se, but when I saw all the things that you were bringing up, like the instruments were sometimes on the ground, and the way they had cigarettes on the piano, on the organ, and one of the things you brought up that I thought was right was how Billy Preston really saved the day, because without Billy Preston coming in and adding life to the music, there would be no reason. They probably would have aborted the original movie without Billy Preston there.
They almost aborted it
anyway.
With Billy Preston.
Yeah.
But without him, I agree, John, that I don't think they would have accomplished the little bit that they did accomplish during the Get Back sessions. Billy Preston really sparked them and got some structure behind the sessions, because one of the things that I noticed, and a lot of people noticed, obviously, especially a lot of songwriters and musicians, was how disorganized it was. It was just a hodgepodge of doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Right, and they were supposed to be writing all brand new songs.
14.
And they never really got to any songs. And then when they finally did the rooftop concert, there were so many things that were not really believable as far as how do they get all that stuff on the roof so fast. Just the timetable didn't make any sense. George left for a while. And then a year later, they did I Me Mine. They actually recorded it a year later.
Right.
And then the other thing that I kept bringing up to you was the fact that if you look at the way Let It Be was recorded, and then you hear Abbey Road, it's night and day, and the difference of the quality and the musicianship and everything. And then that brings you back to the Wrecking Crew, who were playing on all the records here in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And then you start thinking, were the Beatles really playing on all their records? And did they write the songs? And we're not going to stay on this very much longer, but I'll say this. Now we have the Neil Young. These are all staged events going after Joe Rogan. Neil Young sells his music for $150 million. Paul Simon for $250 million. Bob Dylan for $250 million, and Bruce Springsteen. Do you really believe they're making all that money? I think it seems like the athletes, they always have these $300-400 million deals. Do they really make that much? At the end of the day, it's all the same, by the way, folks. There's no line between the sports entertainment and the music entertainment and the acting entertainment and the political arena entertainment and the financial entertainment. At the end of the day, the controllers control everything.
That's right.
And there's not too many of them, the controllers. There's not a lot on top of I always say it's 1% of the food chain. But the Beatles, as we were all taught, changed music because they wrote their songs. And then we wonder, did they? As you did that 4-hour video, how many years ago? 2 years ago, did the Beatles write their own music?
Yeah, April 2020.
And the red flag on that was the Rubber Soul album. They wouldn't have had time to do it. But we're all taught about the Wrecking Crew playing on Mamas and Papas, the Byrds, and then we're taught all these songwriters like Paul Simon, Neil Diamond, all these people coming from the 50s and 60s writing all the songs. But at the end of the day, can we really believe that official story, that they were all the songwriters? Did Paul Simon write all his songs? At the end of the day, do we know all of them? Did they write their own songs?
Right. I mean, it's very possible they wrote some of the songs, but I have a hard time believing now that they wrote all of the songs that they claim to have written, because there are ghostwriters, plain and simple. And the music industry is a business. It's called the music business for a reason. And they're not going to jeopardize not having material to record, especially for the top artists and bands that the record companies and the industry are making money off of. So they're going to make sure, John, as you know, there's a pipeline of material, songs coming in so that the well doesn't run dry. So, if you just put your common sense hat on and you play it through, you have to come to the conclusion that there are a lot of people inputting into the system, and that includes people who are writing songs as ghostwriters.
And that goes to Tavistock, is what the next thing I wanted to talk about. Tavistock, and by the way, if anybody watched the concert that Travis Scott did with the sacrificing of the people, I don't know what actually went down there, but Travis Scott sounds a little bit too much like Tavistock, I mean.
Yes.
Talk about Tavistock a little bit behind all the entertainment industry.
Well, Tavistock goes back to around 100 years ago, but then in 1947 they became the Tavistock Institute, and they are behind all of the social engineering and the social conditioning and the mind control that takes place across the world. And a lot of people have a hard time believing this, but they are part of an overall internationalist structure that is led by the Committee of 300. And below the Committee of 300, we have, the Royal Institute for International Affairs, we have Tavistock, we have the Club of Rome, the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderberg Group, and all of this stuff. And I try to get across to people, John, that there's a reason why we have entities with the word either United, International in front of their names, or World, like the World Bank, the World Court, the International Bank of Settlements. There is a internationalist, one world structure that's in place and has been in place for a very long time. And I think a lot of people either don't want to believe that, or if they have an understanding of this structure, they really don't want to. They don't want to embrace it too much because it gets too scary.
Right, and they always play these games with us. I believe the Neil Young, Joe Rogan thing that's going on now is just a staged event. I think that most of the sports has been rigged forever. This is something that I picked up from a guy who wrote a book about rigging in sports. There is no federal law preventing a league from fixing its own game. I mean, okay, again, there is no federal law preventing a league from fixing its own game. So you have to ask yourself, like in the NBA, it's always the stars. They're always in the finals. They always get the calls. It's easy to rig it, and they can do it. And the same with the NFL. They can call holding on every play if they wanted to. And Tom Brady, by the way, I've never seen him play a live snap ever because I quit watching the NFL. I've seen him play on YouTube and things like that on, films about the guy. But I have no interest in football. I mean, football to me is the biggest sport that has dummied down the world than any in our country for sure. The NFL. But anyway, going back to what you're saying, and what I'm trying to get the people understand, the controllers control sports. They control the entertainment, the education. The history books are all government sanctioned of what they want the history to be. His story. And I wish people would understand that, and you have shown that so well with so many of your videos. Like there is a quiz show law, though. It's illegal to rig and intellectual content. But if you watch all those people on Jeopardy that have been answering the questions before the question is spewed out, you wonder. I think those are rigged too, and they had the rigged game show, in the 50s.
Yes,
but I think they've been doing it forever. I don't think they've stopped that.
Yeah, again, it goes back to these are businesses. They're there to make money. And above that, it's all about control. Like you said, John, they control the entertainment industry, the music industry. They control your sports. They control the media. They control your schools. They control politics. They control medicine. They control everything.
And now we go to the big pharma. Now, before this... Now, I tell people every day when I go online, I have to censor myself before they censor me. When I did my shows by myself, all of them were taken down immediately. One was cut halfway through. So when I say whiz, I don't say the middle, okay? The radiation from the whiz, okay? I'm censoring myself. Well, what comes before that? I can't say it.
Piss?
No. Okay, now we got the jab. Okay, all this stuff that's going on. The face diapers that people are still wearing. I've not worn a face diaper yet. I've had many Karens get mad at me, write me 1-star reviews as a piano tuner. I didn't know wearing a mask had anything to do with being a piano tuner, but now I do. But what we're up against, and that's why I was going to want to play your song, Breathe. Because you have to breathe, you have to get vitamin D from the sun, you have to eat right. Before this happened, this is another thing I've always been saying. If you ask the average person before this BC, as we'll say it, we all know what I'm talking about, the vid. If you ask the average person, do you trust the government? Most people say no. Do you trust the mainstream media? Most people would say no. And do you trust Big Pharma? Most people would say no. Then this happened, and the switch went off. They trust them all. All of a sudden, they've been lying their whole lives, our whole lives. They've been lying. We've caught them in so many lies, and yet now they believe it. So, I mean, that's what we're up against is you talk to people, I've talked to people that don't believe it per se, but they still got 3 of the jabs, and they still don't believe it. I'm like,
I know. I think that a lot of it comes from. In fact, you sent me a link to a video. I watched it earlier today about obedience,
courage.
Right? People define obedience as being a good person. So if you're obedient, you're being good. Following the rules means you're being good. You're a good person. And many people have been conditioned and brainwashed into believing that nonsense.
And that reminds me of the meme that taking orders from liars, thieves, pedophiles, psychopaths, and mass murderers, and thinking you're more virtuous than those who don't is what's going on. Well, you got to go along with this. Well, yeah. Do you know the real Fauci? Anybody get this book, RFK Jr.? This book should get this guy arrested. And in page 172, 173, you got a list of what he did, what he's been doing since the 80s with the AIDS and HIV, given the AZT, which was killing everybody. And, I can find the truth. You can find the truth still. They're making it harder. Like my book burnings here talk about, in the middle, I say propaganda is legal. The Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012 under Obama. I say bomb because he dropped more bombs than the other administration before him. That made propaganda legal. And don't think for a second that 2012 wasn't setting up for this 2020. 19 hijackers on 9/11, 19 years later, you got the 19, and 19 stands for artificial intelligence if you go everything. Anyway,
listen, John.
Well, I think it was Obama that signed the PrEP Act as well, which created the EUA, which set up the emergency use authorizations.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that Obama did that a lot of people are unaware of that was table setting for where we're at today.
And also on 9/11, for the first time, continuity of government was put into effect, and it's still in effect on 9/11. In other words, they don't have to go by the Constitution, which they haven't been anyway. No. But the continuity of government means, hey, everything we're still in charge, and you see what they're doing. They've been taking our rights after 9/11. Once they take your rights and your freedoms, they're not giving them back, and they're taking them more and more now today. But let's play your song, Breathe, which is a good idea, isn't it?
It's a great idea.
To Let's go.
What a concept, Mike. Breathe. I didn't know. I didn't know we were supposed to do that. Did you? I think
I thought it was kind of novel myself, John.
Yeah, I think you can go without food. I think 30 days. You can go without water for 3 days. I think, and I saw that you can only go out without air for 3 days. So air is actually the number one thing we need.
Yeah.
Oxygen, and the face diapers have been causing a high bacterial pneumonias have been up since this started.
Of course.
I'm surprised, right? Because all this stuff comes up, your bacteria, your germs, and your I can't say I'm censoring myself because you know that has never caused a disease. It's not airborne or contagious. The germ theory, by the way, was a theory, and it was debunked, I think, 100 years ago. And this brings me to a book. I buy a lot of books and I hand them out. I've already bought about 5 of the real Faucis. And this one, people, I don't know if you can see it. It's Dissolving Illusions. You know this book, Mike?
No, I don't know that book.
Disease, Jabs, and the Forgotten History by Dr. Suzanne Humphreys, MD, and Roman Bystrianki. Or Briank, I can't say his name there.
I know Suzanne Humphreys, so okay.
Yeah, Suzanne Humphreys. This book, she was giving the jab and realized her patients were getting sick with the jab, which is what most doctors find after they do research and find out what's in them.
Yep.
Before now. Now they want to, the jab now has the 666 element in it. The graphene, 6 protons, 6 electrons, 6 neutrons. 666. Does that bother you a little bit there, Mike? Do they have that in you?
It's interesting. I did a video going back about a week or 2 weeks ago, and I talked about graphene. I talked about 5G. I talked about the potential for the interconnectivity between the two. And in fact, I just released a video this morning that had to do with my discussion that I presented at Flattoberfest in October of 2021 last year in Spartanburg, South Carolina.
Right.
And I had a slide that touched on graphene there as well, and the nanotechnology that it certainly appears has been introduced into humanity.
And they're trying to ruin humans. I mean, look at, we got trans. That's cool to be trans now. That's okay. And there's no gender anymore. You're supposed to say they. And this is all satanic, folks. Satanic is there. This is good versus evil. This is a spiritual war. In case you haven't figured it out, this is a spiritual war. And you're taking orders from the bad guys. The bad guys on top, they're Satanists. The bad guys in Hollywood, they're Satanists. The government, the federal, by the way, most of the stuff they tell you, the names of things, Center for Disease Creation is what I call CDC. The Federal Reserve is neither federal or a reserve. Just about everything they tell you is the opposite. Wouldn't you agree with that, Mike?
Oh, absolutely. And the other thing, John, when we talked about what they control, they also control institutionalized religion.
Yeah, well, you name it. They haven't. You have to give them credit for the fact that they don't leave anything untouched by them.
Yep. No, and it is a spiritual war, and unfortunately, there's a lot of people that don't have their spirituality. They're disconnected, and they may think maybe they're connected, or they go to church every Sunday, but that's not what we're talking about. It is a battle between the light and the dark.
Right. And here's another book I highly recommend. This is in the top 10 of all the truth books. Dr. Mary's Monkey. You know about this one?
I know about that book, yep.
Yeah. Now, polio had cancer-causing monkey viruses in him. And in this book, I handed out many of these too. In the lab in New Orleans, it's a long story about what was going on there. It's got AIDS and HIV in it and things of how that created it. And Lee Harvey Oswald, I think people have heard of that guy. Do you think people have heard of Lee Harvey Oswald? he was at that lab 5 months before 11/22/63. They sent him there. He calls his girlfriend the night before and says they're going to take out JFK. And by the way, again, I try to tell people I've been awake since the 80s officially. I would say probably the 70s. I was one of those that was real happy about the moon landing in '69. I was a young kid running around the house. I was 17 going, hey, we landed. But, you know, I had no idea how dumb I was. But at least I woke up in the 80s during Iran-Contra. And just name a president that we can say told us the truth. You can't name a president that told us the truth. There isn't any.
No, they're all controlled. They're all controlled to some degree, at least. I think the only one in modern times that we can look back on that gave us some semblance of the truth was John F. Kennedy. You know, but even Kennedy,
he was in on it. Remember in the early '60s, he says we want to. He said decade, and for decade, he called it in his Boston accent. Do you remember that speech? He said, at the end of this decade, we're going to go to the moon. I watched that many times going, what's a decade? It was, do you remember that? It was decade.
Decade,
yeah. But he said decade. Anyway, and they never, like they say, idea in Boston is idea. There's an R on the end of that. Like in Chicago, where I'm from, we say thank you. We never use the H. I want to thank you I want to thank everybody here for coming to the show. And by the way, in case you don't know, people say I remind them of George Carlin all the time. Every week, at least 2 to 3 people tell me that. And that's a honor for me, quite frankly. Anyway.
I used to have a much stronger New York, Long Island accent.
Did you?
Yeah, but over the years, I mean, I still have it, you know, to a certain degree. People tell me, but it used to be a lot thicker than it is today.
Well, I used to have a lot thicker Chicago. People say, I'm from Chicago. That's how you say, I'm a Chicagoan. But speaking, let's see, I was going to name a few other things there before I wanted to play. Sasha and I wrote 6 feet apart. 6 feet under. I wrote the words and all that, and Sasha put the music down and added the great ending. And you heard the song, but we got it mixed better. We want to play that today for the folks. This is now. I have 8 new songs at my johnniems.com, my website, that you can download. By the way, I don't know who's all here, but all 12 of my CDs have been censored. Neil Young thinks he's got a beef. All my music is censored, Neil.
That was a publicity stunt.
Yeah,
Neil Young is irrelevant.
I know, but but I'm saying I've got 12 CDs and they're damn good, I must say, but they're all censored because I write truth songs more than than people realize, and that's what we're up against though. But this new song, 6 feet apart, 6 feet under, I want people to understand why they chose 6 feet apart. Is there any science, Mike? I want to ask you this real quick. Is there any science about staying 6 feet apart from anybody? Is there any science to that?
No, in fact, it's occulted. And I can get into that after the song.
Yeah, okay. Okay, we're going to play the song. Sasha, my producer, and I wrote this. Listen to 6 feet apart, 6 feet under.
Six feet apart, 6 feet under. The ones on top, sure, love that number. Don't you wonder why that they always use the 6? The deceivers know how to control you with their tricks, made up simulations. feet under or 6 feet apart. They've loved that number. They sure do. Hey, hey, right from the start. Their OK sign is really 666. Seems you should know they all are mentally sick. Made up simulation for mind manipulation. Then they line up for the poisons in their arm. It's depopulation, contamination. How can nobody be alarmed?
Yeah, that's Sasha doing all those instruments there. That's my producer over here, boys and girls. So listening, he's a great musician. I wanted to read this that I wrote down. I've got so many things I've been writing for the last 2 years on this. Facebook blocks it. Twitter bans it. Google hides it. YouTube deletes it. I hope they don't delete this, by the way. Government censors it, and the media never mentions it. And what is it? The truth, folks. If you're still watching the mainstream media news, oh boy. Yeah, oh boy. That's not anything to watch. But anyway, I think that sums it up pretty much. And if you know me for one song, the 6 million mantra of World War II, I got in trouble with a customer a few weeks ago. It gave me a 1 star because I started talking about that. There are many, many, many words. If you it can trigger somebody to just, she wanted me out when I brought up the 6 million mantra. You know that, Mike, too. If you start talking truth, if you had that happen, you mentioned, you have had a lot of religious Beatle people hate your guts for that. Am I right? Hey, wait.
Uh-oh.
Hey, where's Mike? Wait, where did Mike go? Mike.
Can you mute his mic? He must unmute his
I
mic.
got it. Yep. It's on mute so I wouldn't interfere with your song.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was going to say I get a lot of hate from the congregation
Of the Beatle religion.
The Church of the Beatles. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
You just move past it,
but this, I was tuning the piano in the house, and she wanted me out right away once I started talking. I thought but here's the thing. She's a teacher.
Wait, you just brought it up?
Yeah. Okay, wait. Never have a conversation with a teacher or with people with a lot of degrees. Have you found that people with a lot of degrees, PhDs and all that, they still teach the germ theory in medical school. So that's one thing is bad. And that, are still good. And they've never been good. World War I, the Spanish flu was named after Spain because they wouldn't join in the war. That was their punishment. And more were dying of the jab in World War I than from enemy shots. That was the slogan.
They didn't have a jab in.
Yeah, they did. Do you see the baby bump?
It was bacterial.
Oh no, I didn't see that one. No.
Yeah, someone asked that question.
Yeah, but it's what we're up against. The germ theory was debunked. E equals MC squared was debunked. I can't go into that right now because the controllers control this stage that I'm on right now. So anyway, Mike, talk, will you, so I don't get us censored, will you?
Well, it's all in the protocols of Z.
Yeah, exactly. And that got me in trouble too.
Yeah, so if you read the protocols, you will see that it was a strategy paper that laid out what was going to happen over the next century, over the next 100 years. So everything you just mentioned, John, I mean, it's all in there. I read the protocols.
Yeah, me too. But they deny that that's even true. They deny.
Well, of course they deny. They deny anything that blows back on them. But they want to say it's because you're anti, But no, the protocols are real, and it was, like I said, it was a strategy paper. It was a game plan, and it laid out what was going to happen over the next 100 years, the next century in the United States. And
this is the last bastion of this is the last bastion of hope. Our country is the last bastion of hope.
Yes. Yep. And it's a little bit depressing, because when you take a look around and you see how many people absolutely don't get it, we have two realities now. There's the reality of folks like yourself and myself who are awake and see this for what it is. We've pierced the veil. And there are other people that are still watching the puppet show, and well, that's most people, and buying into it. Now, there is an awareness, right? You in your email you mentioned the convoy in Canada as an example, and that is very hopeful, and it's great that that's taking place. I'm just hoping that it just doesn't come and go. In other words, that the people learn something from it, and then they pick up a head of steam, not just in Canada, but in other parts of the world, especially here in the United States.
Australia, New Zealand,
yes, yep. And that little prick Trudeau, he ran and hid.
Yeah, he was tested positive.
Yeah, he disappeared. He just disappeared after saying that it was just a fringe thing, and But then the video footage started to come out on social media, and we saw that it wasn't fringe by any stretch, that it was a very, very big movement that's taking place in Canada. So bravo. I tip my hat to the Canadians and the truckers that are doing what they're doing. I just hope that the rest of the world learns from it and picks up the baton and moves forward, because if we don't, it's not going to be a good thing.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring up too, after I meant to bring this up, because I know there's still a lot of Trump supporters, and I mentioned the OK sign in the song. Which president, and have you seen that gave that more than him? Nobody's given that OK sign more than him. And when you give it all the time, to me, he's not the savior. Like a lot of people think he's the savior.
No. I mean, he brought in Operation Warp Speed. He's the guy that brought the injections.
Exactly.
He put them in play.
And he's pushing them now, too. He's still pushing them. But he had an interview with Candace Owens, and he was going on and on about the fact that, he's taken two, and, and he's gotten the third, right? And he's talking about how wonderful they are, and everybody should go get them. And, so for those who are sitting there waving the pom-poms on the side of the field for Trump, he is part of the puppet show. Exactly.
He's always been part of the puppet show.
And he's not going to change anything, because
no.
He was on 9/11. He actually said that he helped in the cleanup at Ground Zero. I mean, his lies are astounding, and and the new guy in there, Biden and Camel Toe Harris. I mean, we really we got some real winners there, winner schnitzels there. Another book that I wanted to bring up today was this one, which came out in 2004. Have you Confessions
John Perkins,
of an Economic Hitman? I got a lot of these for people. I hand books out all the time. That's my way of doing it the old way, with books. And this book explains how I call this book Foreign Policy 101, because we got Manuel Noriega and Saddam Hussein became CIA operatives in 1959, and then we know that Osama bin Laden, his name in the CIA was Tim Osman. I'm sure you know that. Everybody who's awake should know what I'm talking about. And a lot of times when I'm talking to somebody like this, it's like the lights are on and nobody's home. Do you ever have this happen where their eyes are just like this and they're listening to you, and they go, "What? Whoa, this is what?" I'm like, haven't you? They like to think. I've had people tell me a lot of times. They say, "Well, you remind me of Uncle Harry or whatever the name," and then I start talking. And they said, "No, you're nothing like Uncle Harry. Not anything like Uncle Harry." Because they called him a conspiracy theory. A theory. And by the way, I'm a conspiracy analyst. That's the new name. I think my friend David Weiss came up with that too. I'm a conspiracy analyst.
That's great.
I look at the official stories, then I do research, and most of the official stories will fall with just a little bit of research, just a teeny little bit of research, and they fall by the wayside. Am I right?
No, absolutely. But the thing is, most people don't do an ounce of digging.
Yeah, exactly. All they have to do is open a book or whatever, or buy a book. Like I recommend these books. I've handed these. Breaking the Spell. Nathaniel Collerstrom wrote that book about the 6 million mantra.
That was a very good book.
I handed out 70 of those. 70. I don't know if he knows. I don't know if these authors know how many books I buy, but I
think he sold 75. So
70 of mine. And but I'm proud to hand it to people. I said, read this book. But sometimes I give it to them, and then a few months later I said, have you read the book I gave you? And they say no. And I'm like, why not? It's right there.
I've done that with family members, John, where I bought books and I said, this is a great book, you should read it. And then, I'll ask them a couple of weeks or a couple of months down the line, did you read the book? No, they didn't read it. It's just so many people don't have it in them. They don't have the gumption. They don't have the drive, the motivation. They don't have the guts.
And have you heard about a lot of people say, well, how could it be a secret? So many people would have to be on it. They don't know the word compartmentalized. They don't know the word that people in the company, it's a need to know basis. And the only ones that need to know are the ones at the very top. And the ones, and that's how they get away with it.
The biggest piece of it is the reason why they ask that question is because they themselves are oblivious.
Exactly.
To how the world really works. So, they think that everything is open, everything is truthful, or it's mostly truthful. There would be people that would spill the beans. And like you said, it's compartmentalized. And the people that are in the know are not going to say anything because they are benefiting from the very system or the conspiracy that's playing out. I get that question all the time with the Beatles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't a lot of people know? Yeah. And I bet you get this question. How come no one's talking about Paul dying? Well, because they're in on it, and they're making money too. And if they go against it, they're gonna lose a few things in their beautiful life that they have.
Yeah. Well, the people that know, there are people that definitely know that are in a circle. They are in secret societies. They're Freemasons, and they have their oaths and their obligations, and that comes before everything else. And to them, that's just how it works. In other words, it's just show business.
Right.
As an example, the show must go on, and they don't even blink. And that's how they keep the secrets. And if somebody decides that they're not going to keep the secret, let's just say they're in the Brotherhood, and they decide that they're going to open their mouth, there are going to be consequences. Now, the consequences will be that you will get shown the door, number one, and all of the opportunities that you had made available to you because you were in the Brotherhood are going to evaporate, in a nanosecond, and you're just going to be thrown out. And the Freemasons call it when they divulge inner secrets, feeding pearls to the swine.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no Freemason, especially those in the upper degrees that are in the inner circle, that are part of the music and entertainment industry, that are going to spill the beans, period. It's just not going to happen. So, and then outside of that, as we talked about, the controllers control everything. They control your books, they control your internet, they control the music industry, they control Hollywood. So where people typically go to get information is controlled.
They control Dow Jones.
Yes, Dow Jones. In fact, it's really funny. I like this series. I think it's on Netflix. It's Westworld. And in season 3, I think there's 3 seasons right now. They're working on a 4th.
Yeah.
In one of the episodes, they talked about the artificial intelligence, and they said that one of the first pieces of the matrix that the AI was engaged in controlling was the stock market. And it's interesting because when you watch these shows, because that's all about transhumanism, right?
Right.
And
Well,
also
it's all, you can see what they're doing, man.
You can see what they're doing, and they drop these truth bombs in these series, especially the ones that are well done.
Right. Those shows,
And
like you say, they're so out there, and you think, oh, that can't be. No, that's what's going on, man.
Yeah. I mean, they tell you what's going on. You just have to be astute enough to be able to pick up on it. And most people, they just watch it. It goes right over their head. So, but that's the thing. It's the reason why secrets are kept is because it's contained within secret societies. And beyond the secret societies, the people in the secret society, which reside within the pyramid of power, control your reality. They control all the touch points in which you would, or at least that you would think that you would get information.
Exactly.
So, right. I mean, just take a look as an example. If we go on to Google and you try to do a search on something that goes against or cuts across the grain of the official narrative, good luck finding any information that cuts across the narrative. You're just not going to find it.
And then the other thing I was thinking too, of the English language, I don't know if people realize, is Satan's language. And they always put in the words what the word is. Like when you're flying in the air over the plane, that's why it's an airplane. They tell you you're in over and it's a planet.
Right.
And then if you're a soldier, you're a soul to die. It says it in the word. If you go to the bank, they have a teller that'll tell on you. You write a check, that'll check on you. All these words, and there's a list that goes forever. I remember I made a list of words one time, and I couldn't believe how stupid we are to not see it. But it's right. It's truth in plain sight, and they have to tell you. That's one of their plans, is they got to tell you. And going back, we were talking about the CIA. I want to play my CIA song because do you know any song that actually sings compartmentalize in it?
No.
Well,
but I bet you do.
We're going to play the CIA song. Listen carefully to all the things in it, folks. And Mike, this is great. This is a great conversation, but listen to the CIA song since they are behind so many things.
When in doubt, they'll take you out. That's their M.O. and most use remedy. They're high-paid thugs making billions on illegal drugs under the guise for yours and my national security. The CIA, they collect their pay to start their dirty wars. That's all that they're good for, the CIA.
Yeah, it really do make you feel good.
The CIA. Plausible deniability are their two favorite words. And when their crimes are exposed, their denials are simply absurd. Why, oh why, are they given so much free rein? Since 1947, they only create fear and pain. In the CIA, where killing is okay, they love to assassinate. Too many have had that fate by the CIA. Just ask JFK.
And his brother Bobby.
Let's not forget the FBI,
Oklahoma City.
Israeli Mossad as they compartmentalize,
USS Liberty.
working together in tandem with them, creating false flags like 9/11.
Sandy Hook.
In the CIA, where killing's okay, they love to assassinate.
John Lennon.
So many can relate.
MLK.
The CIA, they collect their pay. They do their dirty deeds. And do we really need the CIA?
I think you know the answer to that one.
The CIA.
What a happy and snappy song.
When in doubt, they'll take you out.
There you go.
When in doubt, they'll take you out. Don't you just love these guys? Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that's my George Carlin on the end of that. Don't you just love these guys? After I show what they are, and Oklahoma City bombing, the FBI was all over that one. Then I bring up the USS Liberty, and 9/11, Israeli Mossad and the CIA worked in tandem on that. And when anyone ever brings up planes on 9/11, that's another thing that's a trigger. You bring up no planes on 9/11. Whoa, what are you talking about? Oh, forget it. I don't want to talk about it. There's so many triggers. We could spend the next 10 days here talking about triggers that get people upset. Mike, do you got some triggers you want to?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's so many of them, John, and just so many people don't want to. They don't want to touch them. I mean, they are lost in this very, very strange culture that we're experiencing today. I mean, we're on the outside looking in, but they're in this cancel culture mindset where if they hear something that disagrees with them or something they don't want to hear or goes against whatever it is that they believe, it's not. There's no room for discord, for civility in having some kind of discourse. It's about just getting rid of whatever it is that you don't want to hear or you don't want to like. So they just want to cancel and deplatform and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's going to take a lot to turn this ship around. But what I tell people is that all we need is a critical mass of critical thinkers and put some good shepherds in place, because most people are followers.
Right. Well,
And
that's
right
what
now-
that
right
video
now we
I
have
sent
bad
you.
shepherds.
That's what that video I sent you. Have courage.
Have
Speak up.
courage. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I can't tell you how many people will say to me, you have a lot of courage to put the stuff that you put out. Don't you get scared? Don't you get frightened? Don't you think something bad's going to happen? And I think, well, I'll even write back and say, what's the alternative?
right, exactly. If you don't do
To hide
anything,
under the
nothing's
table?
going to happen. Nothing's happening as long as trying to get it out. That's what I've been doing for a long time. In my family, I know so many families that are separate, or can't talk to people. I can't talk to my brother, his wife. I can't talk to my sister's husband. They've thought I've been. My dad had died when he was in the 70s. By the way, I'll be 70 in May, folks. If there's a few shopping days left, if anybody wants to get some CDs. But I'm embracing 70. I'm not afraid of it. I'm ready for it, man. But I still work like crazy. But the piano tuning, my grandmother enrolled me in a piano tuning class. By the way, I don't know if I ever told you the story.
No.
And 2 weeks went by, and I got a call. You coming to your class? And I said, what class are you talking about? And they said, your piano tuning class. It was the best decision I never made because I tell you, I could not work for anybody. Another joke I have is I've never had a job interview, and nobody would hire me anyway, so why bother? John, we want you to do this thing. I said, you do it. I'm not going to do it. You do it. That's how I would be if I was in a job interview. But I turned down 4. I don't know if I told you this too, Mike. I turned down 4 major concert tunings last year. John Mellencamp, have you heard of that guy?
Of course. Yep.
Jack and Diane. Blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
The T-Mobile Arena was for a big event, and House of Blues, and one other. I forget who it was for. And now you're supposed to ask me, why did you turn them down, John?
Why did you turn him down, John?
Good question. Because they wanted to stick the ethylene oxide up my nose. Now, Dr. Kerry Mullis, the man who invented the PCR test, I know you know this already.
Yep.
He said it doesn't even tell you if you're sick.
Nope.
And he also said that Dr. Fauci doesn't know anything about anything. And this is the guy giving all the medical directives.
Right.
And I told these people, like the John Mellencamp camp, is that camp? I don't want to say it twice. They wanted me to be there from 11 to 11 in the morning to 11 at night, and they wanted to test me before I got there. And I told the guy the facts about the PCR test, and it didn't faze him. Well,
No.
you still have to do it. I said, well, did you hear me? I was like this on the phone with him. Did you hear me? It doesn't tell you if you're sick, and that's how this thing continues. The cases are why it keeps going on and on and on and on. All these people lining up, they're not sick, getting tested for something they don't have, told they have a positive reaction to something that doesn't even tell you if you are. And then the guy says, and also John Mellencamp wanted me there from 11 a.m. to 11 at night to be on call. I was like, I'm there to tune the piano. What am I going to do? What do you want me there for?
Yeah. How hard is he going to bang?
And, I wanted to sing Jack and Diane for him. I don't know how to sing it, but I would have tried if I sang it. I don't meet these people. I've tuned many times for Bruno Mars. He does parties. A lot of these guys make more money doing corporate parties. And when I walk through the Bellagio, through the masks, through the face diapers, I whistle and I smile. And they all, you got these people looking at you like, oh, man, look at that guy. But I think more than anything, they're envious of us who don't do it. Because they go, man, how could he not be wearing a mask?
Why is he not afraid?
Why is he not afraid? I walk right through them. And then when I get to the back, when I say I'm there to tune the piano for Bruno Mars at the party thing, they never say anything to me. I've been tuning it now for about 4 or 5 months. He does a party about once every month or so. They never say nothing to me. They all got masks on. They never say anything to me. I mean, and then I go to Home Depot, same thing, and same thing at Whole Foods. No one says anything to me. I just look at everybody like, what do you? I want to scream at them, but if I start doing that, then they'll get maybe I don't know. We don't want to start a fight with them. But
it doesn't go anywhere when you confront them because you're dealing with non-playing characters. They're NPCs. They're robots.
I call them
programmed.
I call them useful idiots. That's what I call them.
Yeah. The level of stupidity is beyond comprehension. I mean, how anybody can still be wrapping their face 2 years into this? At what point do you wake up? When does it dawn on you that you've been clowned for 2 years? And when you take a look at some of these masks, they're filthy.
Yeah.
They're putting them in their pocket. They're in the car, And like you said earlier, John, they're breathing back the bacteria that's supposed to be exhaled out of your body. They're breathing it back in.
And that's how you get sick. That's how you get sick.
That's how you get sick. That's right.
When I tune in schools, I get really upset when I see little kids making little kids wear masks as child abuse, and then they want to give them the jab now. And a month and a half ago, a friend of mine showed me a picture of a 6-year-old. He already died. He had the vaccine. He had the jab, and he died already. And you just want to. I mean, come on. And a lot of the parents, they want to keep their kids in school. They want to keep their job. The 2 most important reasons for getting the jab: I want to travel. I want to keep my job. Well, at some point in time, like I'll give you there was a 16-year-old that just passed out in the Australian Open in tennis at the finals. Did you hear about that?
Yes.
And their number one tennis player, they wouldn't let in. He's a vegetarian. He's an athlete. He's in great shape.
They deported him.
Right. So here's the thing I would have done, man. Why didn't all the why would you want to go to Australia? They've been imprisoning their people. Why didn't all the tennis players say, we're not doing it this year? Why didn't they? Because they're conformist, they're compliant, and they're dumb as well. I mean, they should have followed the number one tennis player in the world. Same thing with Aaron Rodgers in football. Everyone's criticizing the guy. Kyrie in basketball, and I don't necessarily trust these guys either. They're maybe playing their role too. I mean, it sounds like maybe Aaron's on our side or Kyrie's on our. I don't think any of these millionaire athletes or entertainers are on our side. Remember what Sean Penn said about if you're not jabbed, it's like pointing a gun at me. Remember Sean Penn said those words? It's like pointing a gun at me. Oh,
yeah.
Because I'm not jabbed. Because I have my own. I'm my own healthcare provider. By the way, did you see my shirt? Did you see?
I do.
Did you read it?
Yes.
My healthcare provider is me. By the way, that's me on the shirt. By the way, if anybody, if you want to get it, I'll send you the picture, and you can put me on your shirt. But the whole idea is to have yourself on the shirt, obviously. But I get people looking at that shirt. Oh, you're your own healthcare provider. Yeah, what a novel idea, huh?
I know. Well, that's the thing, John. People don't want to take responsibility. They don't want to be accountable. And let me just say something. All the folks that went out there and took the injections, 5 to 10 years from now, that's when I suspect there's going to be a lot of fallout. There's going to be a lot of illness, autoimmune, cardiopulmonary issues, cancers, and death. And because right now not everybody has had reactions or immediate effects, and that's because the formulations are different, and that's because of the batch numbers. There's the Enigma group. I believe they're out of the UK. I believe so. And these are researchers and people who understand the pharmaceutical industry, who in pharmaceutical R&D and so on, statisticians, and they have been looking at the batch numbers. And certain batches are causing a disproportionate number of reactions, serious reactions to the jab. So that's why some people did okay, or they think they did okay, and other people obviously did not do well at all.
Have you had some people tell you, "Oh, I'm fine. I've got them all. And I'm fine." They always say that.
I've never had somebody say to me that they got the jab and nothing happened. What I typically hear is that they took the shots and they got sick afterwards. So they might have gotten sick for 2 or 3 or 4 days. I had one person, there was this lady that was cutting my hair going back around 6 to 7 months ago. And, by the way, a lot of people just announce to you that they went and did it. Like it's some kind of badge of honor. I just look at it as a badge of stupidity.
I've had that many times.
Yeah, they just blurt it out. And so she was cutting my hair and, she was talking to me about it. And I said, did anything happen after you got the jab? And she says, well, I got really sick. And she goes, and then I had a lump form under my left arm, which first blew up to a size of a golf ball. And then it blew up much larger to like just short of a size of a baseball under her left arm. I said,
was she a little concerned about that?
Exactly. So I said to her, did you go to the doctor? And she says, no, it just went away on its own. I said, hold on a second. You had this big lump form under your arm and you never bothered to go get medical attention for it? Now, and I just dropped it at that. But the reason why I tell that story, because that's indicative of the lack of brain power that is circulating in people's heads. They can't even have something like that happen to them and even have the wherewithal to say, you know what? something is terribly wrong here. This is abnormal, and I need to have it checked out. It's just mind-boggling to me.
I know. When you see people every day, I only have 400 friends. By the way, the only reason I'm still on Facebook, I know you got off Facebook, but the only reason I'm still on is so they have fact checkers, which are fact blockers. But I just like to, screw with them, and I was kicked off. You'll never find John Niems on Facebook again. I was kicked off. I was a bad guy. I was in 2-year jail. I was John Nimkowitz and John Nimchevsky, and I do all kinds. I wanted to read you. This is good, but everywhere I say, I'm going to say jab instead of the word I can't say.
Okay.
The pandemic was brought in for the jab. The jab was brought in for the jab passport. The jab passport was brought in for the biometric ID. The biometric ID was brought in for the central bank digital currency. The digital currency was brought in to enslave you. I thought that was so right on the money. And by the way, people with your smartphones, I still have a flip phone. It's a 4 Whiz. Okay, what's before Whiz? You say I can't say that. Anyway, SMART stands for Secret Militarized Armaments and Resident Technology. Do you know that, Mike?
No, I didn't know that.
Secret Militarized Armaments and Resident Technology. Smartphones, smart meters, smart watches. This is all, again, we're talking about how it's all encompassed together,
Yep.
all this stuff. Modern technology is all part of the entertainment business and all that. Certificate of, now I'm not going to say the word, jab ID. That's what they tell you. Again, they have to tell you before what's coming. Certificate of, it's always been about the jab. It's always been about it from day one. Certificate of, put the Vaseline ID, okay? And then 19. Good one. Sasha, let's hear it for Sasha. Everybody. And then 19, again, 19 hijackers, there are no planes, but 19 artificial. A for artificial. And the letter 9 is intelligence. And you know how robotic they show you all these robotic movies that they've had, robots, and then they also it just they don't like people. And then trans, now we're all they. You're not born a male or female anymore. And by the way, I saw a great meme. There was a picture of 2 parents. They just said, "The doctor, what was our baby?" And the doctor said, "I can't tell you the gender, but it had a penis." Does that get me a strike? I don't know, but
I think you're okay.
I'll tell you one thing: the memes are funny. And by the way, my name Niems rhymes with memes. I don't know if that's good or bad, but we're doing John memes. I'm going to do a whole show on all the funny memes that are out there. So. If you see George Carlin in me, I could do. A lot of people say, "Why don't you go and try to do a whole hour and a half of being George Carlin's long lost cousin, Johnny Carlin?"
I think, John, that the whole program that's taking place right now is going to depopulate.
Yeah, depopulation. That's what I sing in the song.
Yeah. There's no question in my mind that that's what's going to happen. And that's why when I said 5 to 10 years from now, I think we're going to see a lot of fallout.
Well, the Georgia Guidestones says 500 million is what they want.
Course.
And that's written by the Freemason. Freemasonry equals Satanism equals Judaism equals communism. That's the formula right there as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. So the Georgia Guidestones with the 500 million, I mean, that wasn't etched because
by
somebody
accident,
had nothing to do that day, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, what are you going to put in here? Well, why don't I put 500 million people? Well, why are you choosing that? Well, I think I know what they want. They don't like us. I've been telling people the ones on top don't like you, Mike, and they don't like me. They don't like us.
No.
Well, I mean, you're a nice guy, aren't you? I think you are.
I like to think so.
I'm a nice guy. Why don't they like me, man? Why did they take all 12 CDs down? I wish I could talk to Neil Young. I wish I could. Hey, Neil, How about if all your stuff is taken down? What if they take your money away? Well, how would you feel then?
Yeah, Neil's just a crybaby, and like I said, somebody had sent me a link to Neil going on and on about the whole Joe Rogan thing, and I said, "Who cares? I mean, nobody listens to Neil Young anymore. I mean, Neil Young listens to Neil Young. He's irrelevant. I mean, we can go back to his old songs and stuff like that. Yay,
yeah, big deal.
But
and by the way, David McGowan's great work about Laurel Canyon. You've heard of him, right?
Yeah,
and he was another guy in his late 50s that died suddenly, and he did a great work on the moon landing stuff too, being hot. But Laurel Canyon was where a lot of these celebrities, actors and actresses and musicians came from. Neil Young was one of them. The story about Neil Young too is a little suspicious. He met Stephen Stills on a corner. And within like a few months, they're playing at Monterey Pop Festival. They got a band. Same thing with David Crosby. He has blood in him that is so-called royal blood. And, all these guys, David Crosby, when the Byrds started, could barely play an instrument. At least they tell us that about these guys. But David McGowan did great work. I wish I brought his book about the Laurel Canyon. I think you can still find his work. Out there somewhere, but
I think the Wrecking Crew played on Mr. Tambourine Man.
Well, they played on it. They played. You name a song, they played on it. The Mamas and Papas,
Sonny and Cher,
Strangers in the Night. Guitar was Glenn Campbell, Leon Russell, all of them. I mean, and at the end of the day, you listen to the records, they sound great. And you wonder why. Well, it's not these people. If you see Mamas and Papas live, they couldn't barely play an instrument.
No. That's the thing. People don't understand that the record industry they need to get things done as cost effectively as they possibly can and put the very best product they can out. And they're not going to jerk around with just multitudes of musicians.
Right.
That want to sit in a studio and bang around and think that, they're going to make a record or that they have the chops to actually record a record. It's not going to happen. The record company, the producers are not going to waste time with that. So they're going to bring in the ringers. They're going to bring in the studio musicians. They're going to knock it out.
Right.
And then have the band come in and sing the vocals. And I'm convinced that even with some of these vocals, especially the harmonies, John, that I believe they called in professional backup singers for a lot of these bands.
Oh, yeah.
Who went uncredited, and then the vocals, all of the vocals, including the harmonies, were credited to the band, when in fact, maybe the only person that sang on the record from a vocal perspective was the lead vocalist.
Yeah, you triggered a memory of me. It actually was a good thing. I got conned in the 80s by some musicians, and by two con artists. But one guy, when I started renting out the big studios, I remember, speaking of, they're not going to bring in bad. I was paying good money to record a song of mine, right? I started doing that in the 80s before I became an artist at 40 and 92. And by the way, I wrote New World Order in 92. That's on my second CD of those out there. You want to hear the original New World Order song. But they brought in a guy to play a guitar lead, which was not very hard. It took like 3 hours to get it out. And I'm like, and looking back, I wasn't smart enough to say, why are you bringing this guy in? This guy can't play worth a damn. I might as well have played it. But they knew they knew I was not very knowledgeable about the music business. Then I had an Englishman who conned me, and in the recording studio, they're all smoking dope the whole time. I never have, but it didn't bother me per se. But looking back, they were just having fun with me. They were making money off me. Yeah. And once, but looking back at those two con artists, that was the best thing that happened to me. I realized, I learned a lot by being conned. You do sometimes, and the best way is to move on. I was like, I want to kill these guys, but just move on. I was a dumbass. Move on, dumbass. At least right. I can admit I'm wrong. That's the other thing too that I wanted to bring up with people. You, I'm sure, are like me. The more I know how little I know. The more I know that I've been wrong. I will admit I'm wrong. People, though, that watch the mainstream media news, don't want to hear the word conspiracy ever. They don't want to hear another tale. They want to believe that what the people they put on the news, that they're not journalists, they're just reading the teleprompter. They want to believe they're telling them the truth. But when they're proven wrong, when they admit it ever, they don't want to say, "Oh, I believe that." I'll never go. I admit I'm wrong. Not very often, by the way.
No, you have to look. If you find new information that shifts where your thinking is, and it trumps where you used to be.
Don't say the word Trump.
Well, yeah, okay. It overrides.
That's better, Mike.
Right, where you used to be as far as thinking about what something was about, then you need to make that change. You need to make that shift. Otherwise, you end up looking stupid if you don't change when new information comes your way. You start looking foolish. And there are people that do this. There are people that are in the quote unquote truth community that do this. They won't budge off of something because I guess they believe that if they move, then people are going to say, boy, you got that wrong, or you're not as smart as you thought you were. But the truth of the matter is the smart person is the person that identifies new information, new evidence, and formulates a new position based upon new inputs.
Yeah, that happened to me in the 9/11 truth movement when I started looking further than Building 7, and I literally got chastised for saying no planes, Israel's involvement, more than just nanothermite could bring those buildings down, even mini nukes or directed energy weapons. And we saw the fires in California recently and in Australia. Looks like directed energy weapons did that because the way the fires were, and that's what I think when they said ground zero at 9/11 too. That's ground zero was first said about the bombing in Japan in World War II. They called it that. So that's why I started leaning toward mini nukes, brought those down. But at the end of the day, now I don't know how you feel about the Cold War. I think the Cold War was just a facade. I don't think there was really a Cold War today between Russia and us. They were keeping people afraid all the time, but they were just like the race to the moon. We know that was a fake. And they probably flipped a coin. Okay, who goes to the moon? And United States called heads, and Russia called tails, and they didn't get it. So I mean that to me is how it always is. They're playing us all the time. They're laughing at us all the time. They're mocking us all the time.
Yeah, it's all theatrics. It goes back to what we were saying earlier in the show, John. I mean, there's an overarching control system, and the Cold War wasn't real. I mean, it was real to the average person because they were scared into believing that anything could happen at any given moment. But
fear frequency.
Yeah, but the people that control what goes on in the world, it's all moving chess pieces around the board and pulling the puppet strings and just maneuvering and posturing and manipulating. That's what they do, and they're very, very good at it.
Yeah, and that's that's the whole problem with trying to get people to realize that, because like you said, if you're still wearing the face diaper, if you're still getting tested like they want you every week or whatever, and still want to get the fourth, they're up to number 4 now.
Yeah, you're an idiot.
Come on, I mean, how many jabs have we got to have? There's a new song. How many jabs you want to have? How many jabs do you want to have? As many as they want to give you. Okay,
What gets me, John, is that the people going and lining up and going to get the multiple shots, I don't understand how they could be completely oblivious to the information that's coming out. Even some of it has leaked out into the mainstream media as far as problems, with the problems with the heart. I won't go into too much detail here because they might pull the show, but some of the reactions, that stuff has made its way onto the mainstream media, especially some of the local mainstream outlets, the local news. So what perplexes me is they're actually plugged into that media, which is propagandizing them to believe that it's safe, But on the other hand, that very same media is also having moments of truth and telling them that there are problems, there are issues. People are getting hurt or people have died. And it's as if that piece of information, even though it's coming from their source, goes right over their head.
And big pharma are only supposed to report 1% of their problems ever. And that's, in the 1986, the Ronald Reagan signed no liability clause for all the jabs. They were losing money, by the way. I don't know if you know. I saw RFK Jr. talking about in the 80s. The CDC was about to lose its funding. They were about to end it, and they got that signed, and then AIDS with Dr. Fauci. They turned it around and started making money. Now, I don't know if people realize, before 1997, Big Pharma was not allowed to have commercials on TV. Have you noticed?
Couldn't advertise. Yeah.
Have you noticed there's a few advertisements for the Big Pharma stuff, and they tell you may have diarrhea and constipation. You don't know if you're coming or going with that stuff. I mean, everything. Oh, suicidal tendencies. How much stuff did they give you that suicidal tendencies?
Well, how about I don't know who the person is, but they did a brilliant video, which goes back several months now, where these major news networks, brought to you by Pfizer, brought to you by Pfizer,
right,
brought to you by Pfizer, right? Well, give me a break.
I'd like to bring Pfizer. And how about lawyers? They weren't supposed to advertise too, lawyers a while back there, too.
No.
But anyway, we're going to close down. I'm going to play another song that Sasha and I did when we're done talking. But I wanted to ask you, is there anything else you want to bring up here? I don't know how long. The first time we talked, we went to 2 hours, and it just went smooth. It's going smooth today. I hope everybody's having a good time and enjoying the conversation. And
YouTube hasn't pulled us yet.
Yet, that's the key word. But listen, Mike, we got another song we're going to play on the way out.
Hold on, let's give the disclaimer on the song because it's not done yet.
Oh, the disclaimer on the song is it's not finished yet. It's a tease. This is called the tease of the song called Two Devils, and you can guess who it's about. If that one happens to be a guy who is from Microsoft, who's not a doctor, who's given all these medical directives to everybody, and another one's Dr. Fauci, as Dr. Kerry Mullis said, doesn't know anything about anything. These are two devils. And I want to say, Mike, it's great having you again. I hope you want to do it again with me because I have a good time, and I don't do this.
Anytime, John. It's great.
I don't do this stuff that often, and it's fun for me to do it now and then. And I hope. Oh, I got to say, press the like button. Press the subscribe button. I'm not used to that either. If you want to see hear my music, we're going to have my link, John Niems, JohnNiems.com. Rhymes with memes. That's the only place that you can get my songs now. And we're gonna add 6 feet apart, 6 feet under. Mike, you're a Sage Aquay, and we'll put your link down there. Mike has videos about literally everything. That 5-hour video that you showed where talking about those buildings that were cathedrals are actually weather buildings. Remember that?
Yep.
And then the moon was actually reflecting the flat plain land. That was amazing.
That was amazing.
And Mike, I love you, buddy. Like a brother.
Thank you, John.
Like a brother from another mother. And keep doing what you do. And here's Two Devils coming at you.
Too many duped with this COVID. Certificate of vaccine. That's always been their motive. Tell you up front what's their scheme. So they give it to devils to watch now. Every day and every night now. Time to break the spell, how? Get the truth out. Need to push back and fight now. Need to push back and fight now. Need to push back and fight. Center for Disease Creation. A jab never made you whole, spewing out false information. Don't let them steal your soul. So they gave us two devils to watch now, every day and every night now. Time to break the spell, how? Get the truth out. Need to push back and fight.
Okay, that's a little tease there. That will be out soon, and I'll have 11 songs on johnniems.com that you can download. And I got a new one I'm working on. It's called "I'm a Trans-Vaccinated Man," which I'm not vaccinated, but I'm sure all of you out there can identify with those that do, right, Mike?
I guess there are people out there like John.
I want to be in the in crowd. I'm a trans-vaccinated man. Anyway, I hope everybody had a good time. We got some shows coming up soon. And we'll go to Sagequay and watch Mike's great work. He's one of the best. I'm not kidding you. Don't start it if you have to leave, though, because once you start his videos, you got to watch the whole thing. He's too good. He's too good. Okay, have a good night, and let's hope the truckers, let's pray for those truckers, pray for Australia, New Zealand, all the places, Canada, all the places that are really bad. We don't want it to get that bad here in the divided states of communist America. We want to be United States of America again, okay? Have a good night, everybody. Good night.